Coming to you from the set of Prophecy Watchers in Oklahoma. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Special report. I'm here with my elder brother, Gary Stearman. On the set, we will be talking about what is going on in Israel and in the Middle East. First, a word from our trusted sponsor. Here's the hard truth, folks. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That's right. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by 2031. And you see it every time you fill up your tank, buy groceries, or pay the bills. Prices are up, your dollar is down. But there's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something real, something proven. Folks, it's gold, and we invested, and frankly, I'm glad we did. Gold is an asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance. One-on-one support and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. Head to noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. Folks, that's noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. We invested, as I said, I'm glad we did. I believe gold is going to go up. Just a reminder, there's always a risk for any investment like this. However, I've invested in gold, and I'm glad I did.
Hello, I'm Gary Stearman of Prophecy Watcher, and it is, of all things, Friday the 13th of 2025, and I'm not superstitious. With me is a good friend of ours, and his name, as you well know him, is L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to Prophecy Watcher.
Great to be here, Gary. Thanks.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
And because overnight,
yes,
as we're making this, Israel attacked Iran. Mm-hmm. Where did we go from there? Because people have been saying, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And others say, no, relax. But it happened. Where do we go from here?
Well, it's interesting, and I know Bill Salas is really the one that unpacked this, the Jeremiah 49 prophecy, talking about Elam, and I know Bill's going to come on the show, so not today, but probably Monday, and give us an update. What I find interesting is the people going, see, the Middle East is now, it's all calmed down and everything else. Nothing has changed, and people need to understand that Israel is still fighting a 7-front war, and now the whole thing is it's gone through the roof. I read this morning, and I can't vet this, that Iran already has between 10 and 20 nuclear bombs. They've already got them, which is why Israel is striking out. At the same time, Iran has sent 200 drones into Israel. They can't get them all. And what we see here might be the formation of the Ezekiel 38, 39 prophecy. We don't know yet, which is why we watch, right? We're all watching. We know that what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. You look at Isaiah 17 with the destruction of Damascus. Here's the deal. Turkey, Erdogan in particular, the president of Turkey, stated on the record about a month ago, thereabouts, that he was praying to Allah, his God, and basically saying, I'm paraphrasing here, folks, that Allah would destroy the nation of Israel. Destroy the nation of Israel. So it's from the river to the sea. That's it. It's over. It's done.
And by the way, that is the slogan of the big march on college campuses.
Bingo.
Coast to coast, border to border.
And they have no idea what they're talking about. That's the annihilation of the Jewish people.
And there is another surge of Islam into Europe, of all things. Yeah. Talk about that one.
Well, France had, you go back 20, 30 years, maybe 1 or 2 mosques. Now there's like 1,200 of them. And what people don't realize is this is how you change the culture. You do it slowly over a period of time. It's the frog being boiled in water. He doesn't know it's hit him until it's too late, till he's in the boiling water. And you know what? Islam is what it is. But why is it that when they come into a country, they immediately want to change that country's laws and they want to install Sharia law? Well, that should not happen in the United States of America. It shouldn't happen in France and Great Britain and other places, but that's exactly what's happening, because the end game is the Islamization of the entire world.
Our friend Bill Salas has written a lot about Isaiah 17. I'm holding it right here, the burden of Damascus. Now, Damascus is still intact as we speak. But it's right in the middle of what's happening now. And so we might avail ourselves of this info. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city. It shall be a ruinous heap. What can you say about that? That is about as plain as it gets.
It is. If you look at the city of Damascus, around it is a ruinous heap, not the city proper. There's a clip I have from years ago, a drone flying over Damascus, and it's just nothing but rubble as far as the eye can see. The city is still there. Remember Assad, you could say this a couple of months ago, go back 6 or 8 months, no one saw the fall of Assad, but Assad fled for his life. He's now in exile in Russia. And a warlord essentially is running the country. Everything can change on a dime. The whole place. And remember, you and I have talked about this, I don't know, ad infinitum numerous times. It talks about the Ezekiel 38, 39. I will put a hook in your jaw, Gog, and I will draw you in. In other words, Russia, Gog, does not want to be involved in the fray. That's that hook. No, I really don't want to be doing this. But God draws them in. Are we looking, and we don't know. I mean, we don't have, we can't see into the future. But this whole thing could change like that. And people go, well, that'll never happen because Russia is completely involved with Ukraine and they're not going to open up another front. You don't know that. That's that hook in the jaw. Gog, Russia, does not want to be involved, but God draws them into the fray. And then you've got Turkey, which has already talked about, Israel being wiped off the map, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend, which is an ancient Middle Eastern saying, which is what we see here.
And we see a very unstable situation.
Very unstable.
A while back, I wrote a little piece on the prophet Zephaniah, and Zephaniah talks about Philistia. And of course, ancient Philistia is modern Gaza. It's what we call the Gaza Strip. And it says here, for Gaza shall be forsaken, Ashkelon a desolation. Now, we see that right now as we speak. It's already happened.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the television pictures worldwide tell the story. And the people Obadiah and Zephaniah talk about in their prophecies, they're called Cherethites. And Cherethite translates as running assassins. What a perfect description.
That's what they are.
That's what they are. And then to the east of Israel, Obadiah and Zephaniah both write about Moab and Ammon, and saying they have magnified themselves against their border. And the Lord goes on to prophesy through Zephaniah that there will be retaliation, which I think maybe we're seeing right now.
You mentioned Gaza. If I could circle back to that real quick. It's one of the cities that Joshua and Caleb never conquered. Gaza was a Nephilim stronghold. And I'm not equating, the people in Gaza with the Nephilim. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, that territorial spirit that ruled Gaza thousands and thousands of years ago has never been deposed. Is that why we see the atrocities? Well, people don't, isn't it interesting? Greta Thunberg, and I won't get into disparaging Greta, although she's an easy target. But the bottom line is, with her little peace flotilla or whatever to aid Hamas, when they sat her down and said, you need to watch the clips from October 7th, she refused. And this is what we see, the rise of anti-Semitism in ways that I've never seen it in my lifetime, where people somehow forget October 7th, where 1,200 people are brutally assassinated and tortured. There's a thing called a fire necklace. This is not for the faint of heart. And a fire necklace, what Hamas did with some of the hostages early on, they took them, they put a tire over their head. So now they're tied up, there's a tire over their head, and they poured gasoline inside the tire and lit it. That's what a fire necklace is. And you don't hear anything about that. Somehow that gets a pass on the mainstream media. But the last time I checked, Hamas had not surrendered and continue to fire. The last time I checked, Hezbollah in the north was still firing missiles. The Houthis firing missiles. Egypt has amassed their army on the western border. Iran is in a full-blown war with Israel at the present time. And who knows where the rest is going to go. It's just unbelievable. Completely unstable where we are right now. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. And as we speak, Israel has attacked the command posts of Iran, several of them, plus apparently some of their nuclear stores or nuclear capabilities. Nobody knows for sure yet exactly what happened, but you can believe that the Iranians will not rest after this.
No, and they're already saying, Israel will be punished brutally and all this other typical, bluster
Right. Yeah.
that the Middle East is so famous for. What I do find interesting is there are nukes in the area. There are nukes in the area.
Right.
And it's a question of, is one particular country going to pay another country to drop a nuke on Israel? And that may be where the nuke goes off. We just don't know. But one nuclear device, because we're all hooked up like this with the internet and cable and satellites and everything else, the whole world will experience it together.
Now, our Department of Defense and our president have openly championed Israel.
Yes.
There's no doubt where the United States stands, which puts us squarely, I think, in the firing line at some point. And so we see really this local squabble, if you will, between the Jews and their Arab surroundings. We see this going worldwide. This is not just a local contest anymore.
And interesting, the prophecy which says Jerusalem will be a cup of trembling to the whole earth. That's exactly where we are. It's exactly where we are. So I keep circling back to this. What was written will come to pass. What is in these pages is true. I mean, it's absolutely true. Prophecy this is why we're prophecy watchers. This is why we watch and we look and we know and we study, because this stuff is coming down in our lifetime. And we could be seeing the formation of Ezekiel 38. I'm not saying we are, but we certainly could be. We don't know. That's why we watch.
Well, when you go back to Ezekiel, and I'm going to just flip back to the one we all have read for years, and that is Ezekiel 38, which opens with an interesting phrase. It opens with a phrase directed toward the man called Gog. Set your face against Gog, the land of Magog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, which pretty much locates it, and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog. So that sets the scene. How long now have we been talking about this?
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. For all our adult lives, we've been talking about this. Except there's one spot in verse 4 of Ezekiel 38 says, and this is addressed to Gog, God says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws. I'll bring thee forth and all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them, clothed with all sorts of armors. And where is he going to direct them to go?
The mountains of Israel.
The mountains of Israel.
That's unbelievable.
Exactly what we're talking about today. Yep. So a lot of people are asking, this action that's perpetrated by our Lord God, in which he turns Gog around and heads him
hook in the jaw.
Hook in the jaw.
They really don't want to be doing this.
Exactly. And by the way, he doesn't. I think Vladimir Putin, at present, now I'm not saying Vladimir Putin is Gog, but Vladimir Putin does not want to go south. He's aimed west.
Yeah, he is.
That's his goal.
And there's the turning around. I mean, it just fits so perfectly. It's unbelievable.
Really does.
Being turned around. No, you're not going that way. You're coming down here.
Now, how close are we to this? And everybody has to ask that question. But in another way, I think everybody has to pray in a certain way. I think if you are given to prayer, this would be the time to bring up Israel before the Lord. And I think prayers for Israel are well ordained. But not only that, we need to pray for those who might be standing behind the cause of Israel. And that would be the United States of America, in spite of all that's going on the college campuses today.
Yeah, we're in unprecedented waters here. We really are. Uncharted waters, unprecedented times, mixing metaphors. But we are. We are in a place that in my lifetime of almost 75 years, I've never seen it like this. It's a powder keg. Cool heads could prevail. It could back down. And this is what I have friends who go, see, it's this 6 months ago. See, everything's going to be fine now. It's going to be okay. And I'm going, not so fast. The whole thing can change on a dime. And it just did. And here we are, Friday the 13th.
As a matter of fact, it did overnight. As we speak. And nobody that I know of had predicted what's going on right now.
Nobody. Although I heard 24 hours beforehand, I had some intel from people saying that, embassies are being emptied,
Right.
people are being moved around, everybody's on high alert. So it was definitely telegraphed, and I think the Iranians knew it was about to hit them. But they don't even know when the Israeli Air Force are flying. Their radar doesn't pick it up.
And we should pray for the stability of our own country. We have just come out of a very hot-blooded election. And as you know, if you read any of the chat sheets, wherever you may see them, or as you watch the news, what you're seeing right now is an internal battle in the United States of America.
Very much so.
In which there is one faction that's very much focused on peace in the Middle East, and there's another faction marching in the streets and lighting tires on fire. And so we need to pray for our own country.
We do. I've never seen it so fractured like this until the 60s, which is what I grew up with, all the college unrest,
Yes.
unrest on college campuses. And we're seeing it. And what's bothersome is, people will call people like you and me, they'll call us fascists, some of these kids, but they have no idea what fascism is. But we're just labeled this way, or Nazis. We're not Nazis, and we're not fascists. We have a deep love of this republic that we find ourselves in. And those who wish to tear it down should think again, because there's a new sheriff in town, Mr. Trump.
And I think this story is going to attract a number of Christian prophecy teachers and writers, and believe me, we will be following what they're doing.
Very closely.
What they're saying. We do indeed, and we ask that all of you gather in prayer for those in ministry, for those who are preaching the gospel, for those who are teaching prophecy, and for the United States of America. I think it's a time to pray. I'm Gary Stearman, and
I'm Ellen Marzulli.
We'll see you soon.
Folks, I will be traveling tomorrow, but I am keeping my eye on the whole Middle East conflict, and I will be doing updates as I possibly can. We'll be back in the saddle on Sunday for sure with an update. Don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thanks so much for coming here, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.